And so what's interesting about Taiwan is we haven't talked about the disinformation issues, but it's under, like you said, not just physical threat from China, but massive propaganda disinformation campaigns are trying to run there, right?
I'm sure.
And so what's amazing is that their digital media system is good at dealing with these disinformation campaigns and conspiracy theories and other things, even in the face of a huge threat like China. But there's more binding energy in the country because they all know that it's a tiny island and there's a looming threat of this big country. Whereas in the United States, we're not this tiny island with a looming threat elsewhere. In fact, many people don't know or don't think that there's actually information warfare going on. I actually think it's really important to point out to people that this social media is one of our biggest national security risks, because while we're obsessed with protecting our physical borders and building walls and spending $1 trillion redoing the nuclear fleet, we left the digital border wide open. Like if Russia or China try to fly a plane into the United States, our Pentagon and billions of dollars of defense infrastructure from Raytheon and Boeing or whatever will shoot that thing down, and it doesn't get in. If they try to come into the country, they'll get stopped by the passport control system, ideally. If Russia or China try to fly an information bomb into the country, instead of being met by the Department of Defense, they're met by a Facebook algorithm with a white glove that says exactly which zip code you want to target. Like it's the opposite of protection. So social media makes us more vulnerable. I think of it like, if you imagine like a bank that spent billions of dollars, surrounding the bank with physical bodyguards, right? Like just the buffest guys, and every single quarter you just totally secured the bank. But then you installed on the bank a computer system that everyone interacts with, and no one changes the default password from like lowercase password. Anyone can hack in. That's what we do when we install Facebook in our society, or you install Facebook in Ethiopia. Because if you think Russia or China, or Iran or North Korea, influencing our election is bad, just keep in mind the like dozens of countries throughout Africa where we actually know recently there was a huge campaign that the Stanford Cyber Policy Center did a report on of Russia targeting, I think something like 7 or 8 major countries and disinformation campaigns running in those countries. Or the Facebook whistleblower who came out about a month ago, Sophie Zhang, I think is her name, saying that she personally had to step in to deal with disinformation campaigns in Honduras, Azerbaijan, I think Greece or some other countries like that. So the scale of what these technology companies are managing, they're managing the information environments for all these countries, but they don't have the resources to do it. So
not only that, they're not trained to do it. They're not qualified to
correct.
do it. They're making up as they go along.
They're 20 to 30 to 40.
And they're way behind the curve.
Right.
When I had Renee DeRest on, and she detailed all the issues with the Internet Research Agency in Russia and what they did during the 2016 campaign for both sides. I mean, the idea is they just promoted Trump, but they were basically sowing the seeds of just the decline of the democracy. They were trying to figure out how to create turmoil.
Yeah.
And they were doing it in this like very bizarre, calculated way that it didn't seem, it was hard to see like, what's the end game here? Well, the end game is to have everybody fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what the end game was.
And if I'm, one of our major adversaries, after World War II, there was no ability to use kinetic like nukes or something on the bigger countries, right? Like that's all done. So what's the best way to take down the biggest, country, on the planet, on the block? You use its own internal tensions against itself. This is what Sun Tzu would tell you to do.
Yeah.
And that's never been easier because of Facebook and because of these platforms being open to do this manipulation. Right. And if I'm looking now, we're 4 days away from the U.S. elections or something like that when this goes out.
Jesus Christ.
We have never been more destabilized as a country until now. I mean, this is the most destabilized we probably have ever been, I would say, and polarized. Maybe people would argue the Civil War was worse, but in recent history, there is maximum incentive for foreign actors to drive up, again, not one side or the other, but to drive us into conflict. So I would really, I think what we all need to do is recognize how much incentive there is to plant stories, to actually have physical violence on the streets. I think there was just a story, wasn't we talking about this morning, that there was some kind of truck, I think in Philadelphia or D.C., loaded with explosives or something like this. There's such an incentive to try to, throw the agent provocateur, like throw the first stone, throw the first, Molotov cocktail, throw the first, make the first shot fired. to drive up that conflict. And I think we have to realize how much that may be artificially motivated.
Very much so. And the Renee DiResta podcast that I did, where she went into depth about all the different ways that they did it, and the most curious one being funny memes.
Yep.
That there's so many of the memes that you read that you laugh
the Frog.
at. Yeah. Well, it was just so weird that they were humorous. And she said she looked at probably 100,000 memes.
And the funny thing is, you actually can agree with them, right?
Yeah,
like
they're
actually,
funny.
you would laugh at them and say like, oh,
And they're being constructed by foreign agents that are doing this to try to mock certain aspects of our society and pit people against each other and create a mockery.
And, back in 2016, there was very little collaboration between our defense industry and CIA and DoD and people like that and the tech platforms. And the tech platforms said it's government's job to deal with if foreign actors are doing these things.
How do you stop something like the IRA? Like, say, if they're creating memes in particular and they're funny memes.
Well, so one of the issues that Renee brings up, and I'm just a huge fan of her and her work, is...
As am I.
Yeah. Is that if I'm, China, I don't need to invent some fake news story. I just find someone in your society who's already saying what I want you to be talking about, and I just, amplify them up. I take that dial, and I just turn it up to 10, right? So I find your Texas secessionists, and Texas secession, that would be a good thing if I'm trying to rip the country apart. So I'm going to take those Texas secessionists and the California secessionists, and I'm just going to dial them up to 10. So those are the ones we hear from. Now, if you're trying to stop me in your Facebook and you're the integrity team or something, on what grounds are you trying to stop me? Because it's your own people, your own free speech. I'm just the one amplifying the one I want to be out there, right? And so that's what gets tricky about this is I think our moral concepts that we hold so dear of free speech are inadequate in an attention economy that is hackable. And it's really more about what's getting the attention rather than what are individuals saying or can't say. And, again, they've created this Frankenstein where they're making mostly automated decisions about who's looking like what patterned behavior or coordinated inauthentic behavior here or that, and they're shutting down. I don't know if people know this. Facebook shut down 2 billion fake accounts. I think this is a stat from a year ago. They shut down 2 billion fake accounts. They have 3 billion active real users. Do you think that those 2 billion were the perfect real fake accounts and they didn't miss any, or they didn't overwhelm and took some real accounts down with it? Our friend Brett Weinstein, he just got taken down by Facebook. Yeah. I think you saw that.
That seemed calculated, though. Facebook has shut down 5.4 billion fake accounts this year.
And that was in November 2019.
Oh, my God. That is insane. That's so many.
And so, again, it's the scale that these things are operating at. And that's why, when Brett got his thing taken down, I didn't like that. But it's not like there's this vendetta against Brett, right?
I don't know about that. Yeah. That seemed to me to be a calculated thing because, Eric actually tweeted about it saying that, you could probably find the tweet because I retweeted it. Basically, it was reviewed by a person, so you're lying. He's like, this is not something that was taken down by an algorithm. He believes that it was because it was Unity 2020 platform, where they were trying to bring together conservatives and liberals and try to find some common ground and create a third-party candidate that combines the best of both worlds.
I don't understand what policy his Unity 2020 thing was going up against. I have no idea.
It's going against the two-party system. The idea is that it's taking away votes from Biden, and then it may help Trump win. They banned him off Twitter as well. You know that too.
They blocked the account or something from.
They banned the account.
Banned the entire account.
They banned the Unity 2020 account.
Yeah.
Unity.
Yeah.
I mean, literally Unity. They're like, nope, no Unity. Fuck you. We want Biden.
Yeah.
The political bias on social media is undeniable, and that's maybe the least of our concerns in the long run, but it's a tremendous issue, and it also it for sure sows the seeds of discontent, and it creates more animosity and it creates more conflict.
The interesting thing is that if I'm one of our adversaries, I see that there is this view that people don't like the social media platforms, and I want them to be more let's say I'm Russia or China.
Right.
And I'm currently using Facebook and Twitter successfully to run information campaigns. And then I can actually plant a story so that they end up shutting it down and shutting down conservatives or shutting down one side, which then forces the platforms to open up more so that I then, Russia or China, can keep manipulating even more. Right?
I understand. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So right now, they want it to be a free-for-all where there's no moderation at all because that allows them to get in. And they can weaponize the conversation against itself, right?
I don't see a way out of this, Tristan.
We have to all be aware of it. I mean,
but even if we are all aware of it, it seems so pervasive.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just pervasive. It's like we said, we're 10 years into this hypnosis experiment.
Yes.
This is the largest psychological experiment we've ever run on
Yeah.
humanity. It's insane.
It is insane.